Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Bamidbar, and it's the first Torah portion of the book of Numbers, which we are beginning this week. And as you know, the book of Numbers begins with a lot of numbers. We have the counting of the tribes of Israel. We have a complete census of the nation. We have a separate counting of the Levites. And we also have a discussion of the camps and the order of the camps around the tabernacle and the order by which everyone marches. Lots of numbers and lots of configurations. Well, in the middle of all this, though, we have a little interesting bit, and that actually is related to the counting. After we count the Levites, and I'm looking at chapter 3, after we count the Levites, we get a total number of the Levites that have been counted. And then we have an interesting situation here. Okay, so we have verse 12. God is speaking, part of this instruction. I hereby take the Levites from among the Israelites in place of all the firstborn, the first issue of the womb among the Israelites. The Levites shall be mine. For every firstborn is mine. At the time that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I consecrated every firstborn in Israel, man and beast, to myself to be mine to the Lord's. Okay, we have a situation here where God tells us that the firstborn are holy, they're special. God has sanctified them or consecrated them to Him, going back to the time of the plagues of the plague of the firstborn, the last and possibly the most severe plague that God struck the Egyptians, and was actually that plague that after that plague, Pharaoh finally said, okay, we'll let the nation go. What was that plague? That all the firstborn of Egypt were slain, were killed. Now, from that point on, God says here, the firstborn of Israel were special to him. Now, why? So think about it this way. If God gave an instruction to the angel of death, I want you to slay every firstborn. And then remember, he told the nation of Israel, put blood on your doorposts. And then the angel of death will know to skip over those doors. And there is, in those houses where there are firstborns of the Israelites, those firstborns will not be killed. So in a way here, God is saying, through that very action of protecting the firstborns of Israel, I consecrated those firstborns to me. And here, there's a switch that goes on. The assumption here being that it was the firstborns who would have normally, shall we say, carried out the service in the temple or in the tabernacle. We don't really see that happening much in the Bible before this point. So it's really unclear if that ever really happened. But we have a sense here that may have been either the initial plan or possibly more likely the assumption. It's very possible that in those times, in biblical times, those who served in the temple in different religions and different nations would have been the firstborn. And it would have been like a family dedicates their firstborn to the service in the temple. And so that could have been the assumption, or it could have been the original plan. But in any case here, God makes it very clear that rather than the firstborn actually serving in the temple, the Levites will do that instead. So I want to now just refer back quickly. What is this firstborn? Why are they so special? And the connection. Now we know, of course, God says here the connection with that plague, the plague of the firstborn. But the connection goes even further back than that. In Exodus chapter 4, part of the instruction that God gives to Moses, he says to him, he's telling him what it is he should tell to Pharaoh. In chapter 4, Exodus chapter 4, verse 22, then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn son. I have said to you, let my son go, that he may worship me, yet you refuse to let him go. Now I will slay your firstborn son. From the very beginning, before Pharaoh even has an opportunity to get involved in this conversation with Moses, God is already telling Moses what he's supposed to say, what Pharaoh will respond, and what will ultimately happen. And the fact that basically, Moses here is supposed to already warn Pharaoh, if you do not send my firstborn or God's firstborn out, your firstborn will pay the price. Your firstborn will be slain. So it's very, very, I think, beautiful here that it's not just that God consecrated the firstborn of Israel to him in this process of saving the firstborn of Israel during the slaying of the firstborns of Egypt, but already before that, God treats the nation of Israel as his firstborn, as a very special son, something special that he has designated, perhaps as his heir, as his message, as his messenger to the world. And these are various ways that you can understand what it is this firstborn idea is all about. But practically, we see something else in our Torah portion, and we continue on towards the end of chapter 3 in the book of Numbers, and we see something else that happens. So as we said, they're counting all the Levites, okay? And we find out that the Levites have exactly, in verse 39, the Levites have exactly 22,000. There are 22,000 Levites. And then in verse 40, we have the instruction, okay, now count up all the firstborn. How many are there? And there are 22,273. There are 273 more firstborns than there are Levites. And in this process of switching, essentially what happens is that the firstborn has to be redeemed. So the 22,000 firstborn each one will be redeemed by a Levite. Instead of the firstborn serving, he will be replaced by a Levite. But there's still 273 firstborns that will not be replaced by Levites. And here we have set forward a ceremony or a process by which each firstborn will be redeemed by giving 5 shekels per child, 5 shekels that will be given to the priest, to Aaron or to his sons. And this is a custom that we have ever since. When a baby boy who is a firstborn boy, okay, the first baby born boy, and it has to be a boy that is delivered regularly, because the firstborn here is defined he who breaks through the womb. So it doesn't count if it's been a C-section. Okay, the very first one that breaks through the womb, who's a boy, that has the status of the firstborn. And even today, I had this with my own son, who was my oldest, was a Bechor, was a firstborn. We have a ceremony, and we give 5 shekels, 5 silver shekels, to a priest, to a Kohen. And the priests, the Kohens in our tradition have maintained who they are, and we give them these 5 silver pieces to redeem this child from service to God. Of course, we wait anxiously for Messiah to come, for the temple to be rebuilt, and for once again the priests and the Levites to take their place as was meant to be, going all the way back to this time, to the biblical times. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below, as well as on the notification bell, and that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below as well as on the notification bell, and that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.